Welcome to Reddit Stories Cookie Edition. The best cheating videos on YouTube. If you enjoy this content, be sure to subscribe and turn on notification. Now let's get into the video. Moving on from a betrayal most foul, long but worthwhile read, I've been told. It's been 4 years now since I've separated from my ex-fiancée. I was young, dumb and hopelessly in love. She meant the world to me and our daughter meant even more to me. You're probably thinking 4 years? That's enough time to move on. I'm mostly over it, but I still get a little depressed around critical dates from that relationship. Yesterday was the day we moved in together. I was in school when we met, en route to getting a doctorate degree when we discovered she was pregnant. Being the young man that was projected for greatness, I told her that I supported whatever decision she made. This was a lie, yet I definitely believed termination would be best for us since she hadn't started her nursing program yet, and with us both being in demanding schools there would be no way for us to finish school. I tried everything, reason, empathy, and even had my big sister attempt to talk her out of the pregnancy. Hindsight, this was all not the best way to go about it. In a long moment of weakness, I decided to break up with her as a scare tactic originally. The reason all of this unfolded was because my parents didn't even know I was dating, so as a young man who feared his mother's heartbreak and wrath, I was losing my mind. Fast forward 7 months along, my parents are informed of the news, and fast forward another 3 months, I move out of my parents' house and start living with my GF. 2 months later, our daughter is born. Like I said before, living this life was destined for our failure. 2 years into this lifestyle of dad, boyfriend and student, I fell out of my program. I convinced her that in order for our educational success she should move back home to get more support from her mother, who lived 2 hours away. Here is where I pick up a job to support them financially while I continue school to get a degree. I promised to see them at least once a month and every holiday while they were down there. While doing the LDR, things became weird. Rumors were being spread to me by friends and family that she was having men in and out of the house. I questioned her and she denied all allegations. I moved on. One day I caught her lying and she said that she was at her best friend's house, but her brother told me she was going to hang out with a male classmate at a party. So having the day off, I drove down there and tried to wait for her at home. She caught wind that I was coming down and rushed home to shower before seeing me in. After a few more incidents like this one, the straw that broke the camel's back goes as follows. It's Christmas, our daughter is now 3. I had proposed to her this past February and we're due to get married in 3 months. I notice she's been on her phone a lot, audibly giggling at texts she's receiving. My suspicion is moderate, but I attempt to get through the holiday and address it later. During our Christmas party she gets blackout drunk and accuses me of not trusting her, which is out of nowhere, as I hadn't said anything to her about this in more than 4 months. Immediately after she blacks out, I carry her to bed and notice that her phone is blowing up still. Given that she had her iPhone set to display messages while locked, I couldn't help but see that this message was from a male friend she talked of often. Him: "Baby, I miss you so much." At this point I'm livid, so I attempt to impersonate her and see what I can get out of him. Me, as her: "I miss you too." Him: "Is your man asleep yet? I want to come through." Me: "He's about to go to bed, you can come through in about 40 minutes. To keep the story short, he never came. After some heated discussion with her brother that same night, I find out she was, at least, sexting a local police officer who thought I was her dead son. My name is tattooed on her, and that's the story she would tell. I don't sleep that night, and when she comes to, I interrogate her about last night's situation. She gets defensive about me going through her phone, but rebutted with, "It was all a trap to see if you would go through my phone." At first I didn't take that as an answer, but eventually I did, in a silly attempt of wanting all of it to be true. Fast forward a year. We're not married because of a gut feeling I got at the last minute. Another terrible feeling overcomes me one day when I ponder the past, and the feeling tells me that I should find out if my daughter is biologically mine. After coercing the GF to agree to a test, she confesses that there is a chance I'm not the father. Fast forward 3 long weeks and it turns out the child isn't mine. After a lot of thinking, I decide I can't do it anymore and tell her that I'll start the motions of removing myself from their lives entirely. After our split, she requested that I not see anyone for a while, and of course I tell her she has no right to request that, but that's my plan anyway. She confirms that she plans that to be the case as well. I find out from her family that 4 months later she is pregnant with another baby, and she gets married to the father of that child 3 months later. This tickles me a ton, especially since after some snooping I find out the guy and I share a resemblance. I'm now in a good relationship and have another degree under my belt, but I find myself letting the above story bring me down often, almost like it dictates my life sometimes. I have trust issues and I'm trying to let them die because my current GF is not like my ex-fiancée. I'm hoping one day this will all be a figment of my past. Final words: I have a mild fear that one day my ex-not daughter will seek me out because to this day she is being told that I'm her father and that I walked out on her. Words from her aunt that I'm close to. Story 2. I, 37M, feel like I can't do anything right for my 33F, 11Y wife. I've been married for coming up 7 years now and in a relationship for 4 more years with my now wife. We have 2 kids together, 7 and 1. Over the years with my partner I have gradually begun to lose confidence in my ability to do things well. I'll question jobs I do around the house, whether I've forgotten something at the store or if I should have done something she hadn't explicitly asked me to do. A couple of examples spring to mind. Attempted to fill some cracks in the bathroom walls and then repaint a darker color. This made the cracks more obvious. Her response, "It's a mess, I shouldn't have tried if I can't achieve a professional finish." For years she has been suggesting getting a dog and I've been pushing back. A couple of months back I suggested it might be a good time. She was okay with it but suggested I would be the lead as she was still feeding our youngest. Fine, we got the dog and I've done all the walks, training, feeding and cleaning. But as soon as the dog misbehaves in any way it's your dog and it was all my idea. A couple of weeks ago we were out with friends and my eldest, who is autistic, needed to go to the bathroom. We were eating on a picnic bench whilst he played with his friend. Mid-play he decides he needs to urinate and stands by the nearest tree and decides to let go. In the car home my wife was annoyed that I didn't immediately stop him, to the point where when I challenged her on it not being a big deal she stopped the car and told me to get out. I did. I then stood at the roadside while she drove off, eventually coming back 10 minutes later. My wife is currently still feeding our youngest who typically comes into our bed and spends the remainder of the night once she needs fed. I then get up with her and the others most mornings for anywhere between 30 minutes and an hour to let my wife sleep on for a bit. When I mentioned last week that I might like a lion one day she flipped, indicating I couldn't empathize with her lack of sleep and don't get it. My wife says she feels isolated in our home. We live in a development of 50 houses about 1 mile from the nearest shops, village. She grew up in the city and would like to move closer to it. I currently pay for all the house costs and everything aside from the grocery shop. I've indicated that we don't have money to move right now but that's me dismissing her feelings. Lately we've been having the same recurring argument. I've been challenging her when I believe she's being unfair. I never win, unless I apologize. Her argument is always that I can't cope, or that I need to develop better coping skills. My mental health problems, diagnosed depression, are unmanaged and are leading to my complaining, inability to cope. They're medicated and good balance. I can't take criticism. This is usually enhanced by adding that I can't take it from colleagues either. She has a direct communication style and that I'm just more used to not saying when things annoy me, largely because I can't be bothered to argue with her. Last week at the culmination of an argument I suggested relationship counseling. I've done private counseling for anxiety before and found it of limited use, but would be open to trying couples. Her response was a blunt no. She didn't see why I was suggesting it when I didn't find it useful for myself. She also indicated that there would be no point until I worked through my own mental health problems. TL, doctor, I'm either a really husband or my wife is being borderline abusive. I've reached the point where I find it hard to rationalize whether I'm right or wrong and feel like I'm walking on eggshells. No matter what happens I end up being the one who apologizes or is at fault.